I'm with Tommy Paolucci. Tommy's our halftime guest here. And Tommy, you coached basketball for a long time. What did you think of the first half?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch too much of it. I've been running around. Coach Brooks, whose team is getting recognized right now, had a bunch of students that are interested in coming to the Mather next year. And as director of admissions now, my role has changed from the basketball court to doing a little bit more admissions work. So I've been running around this first half. I heard we were up early. It looks like Gonzaga hit a bunch of shots, a bunch of threes. So they got a little bit of an advantage there.
Well, for one thing, it's different looking down on the sidelines. You know, for years I'd look down for maybe the last 15 years or so. Tommy Paolucci was down there. What are you doing with your free time now?
Well, I guess the big thing is I have a little girl, so I have an 18-month-old daughter, and I had to make a choice. You know, being a basketball coach here is really a full-time job, and doing a little bit more admissions, and I just made it so if I have any free time, it's at home with my daughter Reese and my wife Maritza. Can I give two quick shout-outs? You know, I'm on the air. I got to say what's up to those watching up in Nova Scotia, Canada. So I'm sure we've got a few people watching up there and a couple people watching in North Carolina. So I wrote it down on a card that I was going to say that, so I've gotten that out of the way now.
Okay, good. We got that out of the way. Now, not only do you work here, you were a DeMatha student. Now, where'd you go to grade school?
I went to St. Matthias in Lanham, Maryland.
Okay. Why DeMatha? When you were picking a high school, what was the difference maker?
Well, at the time, you know, Mr. Moylan, who was our principal for the longest time, he came out and did all the things I do now with respect to going out and talking to 8th grade students. And he came to St. Matthias one day and spoke to us for 15 or 20 minutes. And he talked about the balance of athletics, of academics, and music. And I can't play a musical instrument, but I was a pretty good student. And I was a decent athlete, and I knew, you know, if I wanted to come somewhere I was going to get challenged in the classroom and have an opportunity to compete at a really high level, DeMatha was going to be the place for me. So I shadowed at a few schools, spending a day here. You just kind of got the feel that this was the place I was going to end up.
Did you ever doubt your decision? Did you ever say, well, if I'd gone to this school or that school, my life would be easier, my day would be shorter, maybe I'd play a more prominent role on some of the teams I was part of?
Definitely. Freshman year, you know, I played football, and I was a quarterback, and I actually tried out for the JV team. And not many freshmen did that. And it was the first time I ever quit at anything. I went out for the team and it was just too much for me. So I didn't really quit. I just said, hey, can I move down to the freshman team? And I moved down to the freshman team, and I was the backup freshman quarterback, a kid named Sean Gustis, who went on to play at Richmond. He's a pro scout now. And I'm sitting there, I was one of the better quarterbacks in PG County, I guess, and I'm a backup as a freshman. I'm taking these honors classes. I'm doing homework until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And my buddies at some of the other schools were enjoying things a little bit more early on. But I adapted, and, you know, it paid off for me.
Now, I know most of that time you played two sports. You played basketball and you played football. I don't know, from where I stand, I think about the guys that played both. The guys like Elijah Brooks, our football coach. Kenny Tate, who's here tonight, had the great career up in Maryland. He was a heck of a basketball player. Yep. John Owens, who just went to our Hall of Fame, played football at Notre Dame, played in the NFL for like 7 years. I mean, Brian Westbrook. These are all high-level guys, not just in their athletic ability, but they got it done in the classroom and on the floor, and they had to be. John Day talked about, hey, I went to Coach McGregor with a calendar with tabs and colors when I was doing this and that. Did you find you really had to schedule things to make it work?
Yeah, definitely, and even probably more so nowadays, sports are so year-round. So if you're a multi-sport athlete, you're doing something in the spring. If it's football season, you're still lifting in the spring. There's 7-on-7, or in the winter, there's 7-on-7 in the spring. There's stuff all summer long. So you really do have to schedule things and really make sure you can be where you need to be at certain times. Now, you need to be careful what you said. I played football here, but I was on the basketball team. So there's a slight difference. And you may remember, you were an assistant coach at the time. I practiced a lot. I ran a lot of sprints. I guarded guys in practice, but I didn't play a lot in the game. So I was a two-sport athlete, but I was on the basketball.
Well, I think Coach Wooten put you on a weight program.
Yeah.
Every time you wanted to go in the game, he'd say, Tommy, just wait.
Yeah,
just wait.
That was exactly right. And that was always in the first half. Sometimes I got in the second half. But
So you leave here. I know you played football for a year at what was Western Maryland, what's now McNeil. 2 years.
2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Then you transferred to Maryland.
Yep.
How'd you end up back in Hyattsville?
So I transferred to Maryland. They had a really good business school. They still do the Smith School of Business, and that's what I got my undergraduate degree in. And Mike Jones, who obviously is our current head coach, he was the head freshman basketball coach back in 2000, I think it was, the 2000-2001 season maybe. And he was traveling as an assistant varsity basketball coach with you. He was doing double duty like many of us have done. And that weekend was a Saturday. Coach Jones was out of town. His assistant coach, Eric Beach, calls me and says, hey, can you come help me run practice? You know, I'm going to be there by myself. We've got 18, 19 guys. So I wasn't doing anything. I show up and had never coached before and helped Eric run practice for an afternoon. And for the next 15 or 16 years, I was probably in the gym 90% of the days of the year, just coaching, whether it was at the freshman level for the first couple of years and then a varsity assistant for the last however many years it's been. So that's kind of how it ironically happened. And
in that time, you also coached football for a few years.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I came back to DeMatha while I was finishing my degree at Maryland. As soon as I finished it, it was at the end of the semester at DeMatha. It was January. I did 4.5. And Dr. McMahon offered me 2 business classes. So I taught 2 business classes my first semester, I guess, here. And then the next year I started in the counseling center, and I did 13 years as a school counselor, the last couple years in admissions, and now I'm director of admissions. But I did coach football for a stint in there. I believe 7 years I coached the wide receivers. And actually one of my players, I was texting with him, Rodney McLeod, St. Louis Rams. He's back home, and he's here tonight with Kenny Tate and Travis McKinnon and a few other guys from that year. And they came up and spoke to the 8th graders that are interested in DeMatha. So I'm still able to keep
What was it like coming back when now you're working side by side, or as a counselor, you have to go to some of these veteran teachers that had you in the classroom not so many years ago?
It's different. You know, the funniest thing is having to address them. So you're so used to saying to your teacher, whether it was Mr. Macheski or Mrs. Yerish or Mr. Reeves, and some of them will pull you aside and say, hey, you know, we're colleagues now. Call me Rich. Mr. Reeves never did that. He never pulled me aside and said, call me Rich. But that was kind of the weirdest thing. You know, you always still see yourself as a student, even though you're working here and you're sort of colleagues now. So just communicating with them and being on their level.
Did you ever call Mrs. Yerish Mary?
No, and I never will. I saw her at the last game, at the Riken game in the Alumni Lounge, and I went, hi, Mrs. Yerish. I still remember honors algebra 2 and honors pre-calculus class, but she's still Mrs. Yerish.
All right, we got about a minute left on the clock. Last question.
Yep.
All right. What do you say to a parent now as you're out recruiting? And I know people think about recruiting football players. We get 800 students. They're all recruited for something.
Yep.
They all had a full scholarship local school. What do you say? Why DeMatha?
Well, there's a lot of great schools in the area. I think we all know that. There's 2 specific things, in my opinion, that separate us from most of them. One is we're an all-boys school, and there's obviously a few all-boys schools. I mean, we have one we're competing against now, but there's not a lot. And there's something about being an adolescent boy and being in an all-boy environment. I could spend 10, 15, 20 minutes talking about the benefits of that. But the other thing is DeMatha's mission for diversity. And we're diverse in a lot of different ways. We're geographically diverse. We got kids that come from all over the place. We're academically diverse. We've got elite students to kids that struggle a little bit, but we can support them. And then we're racially diverse. We're a diverse population from that standpoint. Now, I think that's our niche.
Tommy, thanks. This is great. Good luck with everything. Okay. All right. Let's root hard for the Stags in the second half.
Let's go Stags.